Hey besties! Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into an extra episode recap of the manhwa depths of Malice. If you're new to the series, don't worry, we've got links to the earlier episodes in the description below. And hey, if you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Thanks so much for watching, and let's jump right in. Osland's Prince Van Brandt was the only blood relative of the reigning monarch, Queen Charlotte II, and the head of the kingdom's legal administration. Despite wielding immense power, Van dedicated his life to upholding Osland's laws and serving justice. He also established and personally funded a welfare institution called La Idol, which provided aid to the poor. Though widely admired for his striking appearance, Prince Van Brandt never married, a point of curiosity among many. On the day of his death at the age of 89, people of all ranks mourned his passing. A life spent championing justice and the welfare of others seemed to have earned him an extraordinary legacy. In his final moments, cherished memories came rushing back to him, scenes of love, struggle, and purpose. Then, a blinding light enveloped him. When Prince Van Brandt opened his eyes, his vision was blurry. His head throbbed as he instinctively rubbed his temples, his pen still in hand. Confusion settled over him. What was that light just now? He wondered. As his surroundings became clearer, he noticed something startling. The desk before him and the room around him felt familiar in a way that defied logic. His pen slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. "What?" he mumbled, rising unsteadily from his seat. One hand gripped the edge of the table, while the other pressed against his pounding head. His gaze swept across the room. "This is La Idol, isn't it?" Spotting a document on the desk, he snatched it up and scanned its contents. Recognition hit him like a wave. "I know this," he whispered to himself. The document detailed a financial discrepancy, an issue he had struggled with decades ago, in his late 20s. His breath quickened as realization set in. This can't be," he murmured. Stumbling to the window, he looked out into the garden. His breath caught in his throat. There she was, Rita, the woman he had long thought lost to time. "She's alive," he whispered, his face pale with shock. Prince Van Brandt dashed out of his office, his footsteps echoing through the hallway as he hurriedly descended the stairs. His thoughts were consumed by a single name. Verta. She's alive. His heart raced, his expression intense, as he made his way to the garden. Once outside, he slowed his pace, his breathing labored but his steps deliberate. Rita, tending to the flowers, turned toward him, startled by his sudden appearance. "Your Highness," she asked, her voice uncertain as she noticed his flushed face and unsteady breathing. "Verta," he said softly, his voice laden with emotion. Before she could react, he pulled her into a firm embrace. Rita stiffened in surprise as the prince held her tightly, his arms trembling slightly. His face was buried against her shoulder, and she could feel his erratic breaths. "Verta," he whispered again, his tone affectionate and raw. "Verta," she thought, confused. He's never addressed me so informally before. "Prince Van Brandt? What's wrong?" she asked as he finally pulled back, though his hands lingered on her arms. His gaze was fixed on her, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Rita's concern deepened as she noticed the sheen of sweat on his face and his labored breathing. "Is this heat stroke?" she wondered. "Please, Your Highness," she said, gently placing a hand on his forehead. "You're burning up. We need to." Van Brandt grasped her hand, pressing it against his face as he closed his eyes. Tears slipped down his cheeks. "I don't want this to be a dream," he murmured, his voice trembling. "Your Highness, you're feverish," Rita said, withdrawing her hand. "We need to." "Verta," he interrupted, his voice resolute yet tender. "I love you." Rita froze, her eyes wide as his flushed cheeks deepened in color. Before she could respond, Van Brandt staggered, his body giving way as he collapsed forward. "Your Highness!" Rita cried, catching him just in time. Struggling under his weight, she gently lowered him to the ground, her breath coming in short gasps. She dragged him to the shade of a nearby tree, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion. What in the world is going on? She thought, glancing at the unconscious prince sprawled on the grass. "I can't believe this. I was supposed to be the one swooning, not him." When she finally settled him beneath the tree, she wiped the sweat from her brow and sighed in exasperation. So what if his handsome? His apparently useless in hot weather. And a declaration of love, to top it all off. His clearly not thinking straight. The next day, Rita stayed in her room, rolling lazily on her bed. No tedious volunteer duties for me today, she thought, pleased at the unexpected respite. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Miss, Prince Van Brandt requests an audience, her maid announced from the other side of the door. Rita groaned, her contentment evaporating. Of course, that straight-laced royal just couldn't let it go, she thought, muttering under her breath. What now? He's earlier than I expected. I knew he'd come. That's why I didn't go to La Idle today, Rita thought as she approached the door. When she opened it, she was stunned. What's all this? She asked, her eyes widening at the sight of Jana holding a bouquet of red roses. They're a gift from the prince. Aren't they beautiful? Jana said with a soft smile, her cheeks slightly flushed. Red roses? Rita thought, her heart skipping a beat. The prince sent me a bouquet of roses, she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Well, not just roses. The rest of his gifts are waiting for you in the main hall, Jana added, her excitement evident. What? Rita asked, stepping past her to glance over the railing. From the first floor, she could see a pile of beautifully wrapped gift boxes neatly arranged. These were all sent by Van? Her thoughts raced as she looked at the scene below, her expression frozen in surprise. That Van Brandt? The prince must like you quite a lot, miss, Jana said cheerfully, glancing at Rita. Come to think of it. Rita's mind returned to his flushed face and impassioned words from the day before. Did the heat trick him into thinking I'm his first love? She sighed, her expression firming. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. Jana, draw my bath. I must prepare to meet our guest, she said calmly. Yes, miss. I'll add these rose petals to your bath as well, Jana replied, clearly charmed by the prince's gesture. Rita frowned slightly. It can't possibly have been a real declaration of love. A bribe, most likely. He must want to join forces to deal with Proud Carter. We do share that goal, after all, she reasoned, trying to steady her thoughts. After her bath, Rita made her way to the sitting room where Prince Brandt waited. She stopped at the threshold, taking in the sight before her. He was seated, holding another bouquet of roses, his expression unusually subdued. He was serious. She thought, her calm exterior wavering as she saw the faint flush on his face. As she entered, Prince Brandt rose to his feet, bowing slightly as he extended the bouquet toward her. Please forgive me for my behavior yesterday, Lady Verta, he said, his tone formal but tinged with sincerity. It happens. You must be working too hard lately, Your Highness, she replied, forcing a polite smile as she accepted the bouquet. Yes, indeed, he said softly, his eyes briefly meeting hers before lowering, his face still faintly pink. His answers are as short and dull as ever, she thought, a mix of relief and exasperation washing over her. That's a good sign. As she glanced down, gathering her composure, Prince Brandt took a step closer. She tensed, unsure of his intentions. Then, to her shock, he lowered himself to one knee before her. What are you doing? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her mind racing as she stared at him in disbelief. Your Highness, Rita said, her voice tinged with disbelief as she stared at him. Prince Brandt gently took her hand, his expression earnest. Lady Verta, I am in love with you, he said, his voice steady but his cheeks faintly flushed. My heart is pure and true. Rita's heart raced at his words, leaving her momentarily speechless. This isn't a dream, is it? She thought, her mind struggling to grasp the situation. She looked up at him, her expression tense. But why? Your Highness has never shown the slightest interest in me as a woman. So why now? She asked, her fingers hesitantly resting against his chest. Prince Brandt's gaze softened. How can I explain this miracle that's been given to me? He thought, weighing his response. If I tell her the truth, I'll have to reveal the future, and that would mean mentioning Blaine Shade. The memory of Rita's marriage to Blaine flashed in his mind, fueling his resolve. I can't allow that to happen again. Is there another who holds your heart? Is that why you hesitate to accept my declaration of love? He asked, his tone quiet yet pleading as he held her hand. Please, answer this poor suitor. Rita met his gaze briefly before gently withdrawing her hand, her actions startling him. Ah. I'm sorry, he murmured, his voice tinged with regret. His shoulders sagged as he let out a soft sigh, covering his face with his hand for a moment. I fear my feelings for you made me overly rash. My apologies. Farewell for now, Lady Verta. He stood, his movements slow and heavy, and began walking toward the door. "No one has my heart," Rita said softly, her voice steady though she didn't turn to face him. Prince Brant froze mid-step, turning to look back at her with wide eyes. "Pardon? What did you just say?" "My heart," she repeated, glancing at him with a calm but unreadable expression. "It doesn't belong to anyone yet." For a moment, the room was silent, her words echoing in his mind. That night, in his room, Prince Brant couldn't sleep. He paced by the window, his mind restless. "First, I must deal with proud Carter. Bringing about his downfall again won't be difficult," he thought, gripping the windowsill as he stared out into the darkness. "Last time, I kept delaying my confession because of my principles, and look what happened." His jaw clenched as the image of Rita's marriage to Blaine surfaced in his thoughts, sparking a surge of frustration. "I won't waste this second chance. Everything will be resolved within 2 weeks." His fist tightened, his determination burning bright in his chest. The next day, Rita received a letter from Prince Brant. "If you'd be gracious enough to accept my invitation, I have shocking news to share. Van Brant." Rita sighed as she read the note. "Oh no, now I can't help but be curious," she muttered, holding her head in mild exasperation. Just then, Yersha entered the room, catching sight of her troubled expression. "If you keep frowning like that, you'll get wrinkles," he said, stepping closer. Rita's hands flew to her face. "What? I don't already have wrinkles, do I?" she exclaimed, rubbing her cheeks in mock panic. Yersha chuckled. "No, but you do have a guest. You should go out to meet him." Outside the castle, Rita met Prince Van Brant, who greeted her with a gentle kiss on her hand. "My lady, you are as striking as ever. Today, you resemble a summer lily," he said, his voice soft, though his cheeks were faintly flushed. "And you are quite striking yourself, Your Highness," Rita replied with a smile. Van Brant glanced away shyly. "Ah, I'm glad if you think so," he said, his tone barely above a whisper. He's so reserved, yet he insists on expressing his feelings. How charming, Rita thought. Her gaze lingered on him a moment longer than she intended, and she quickly felt her face warm. "Oh dear, I'm getting ahead of myself. Get it together," she scolded herself. "Shall we go?" Prince Brant asked, offering his hand. "Tea time in the royal garden. I can hardly wait," Rita said, her tone light and cheerful as she took his hand. As they approached his carriage, he added, "I've seen the garden so many times that it doesn't move me much anymore. But I've noticed ladies seem to quite enjoy it." Rita paused on the first step of the carriage, her gaze curious. "Your Highness, you didn't choose the garden just for me, did you?" Van Brant's face turned a shade darker. "Well," he stuttered, clearly flustered. Rita, noticing his reaction, playfully stroked his palm, causing him to tense slightly. "Am I wrong? I thought you might have chosen a place specifically for our tea time. A place young noble ladies tend to like, for instance," she said, pouting ever so slightly as her cheeks flushed. As she began to withdraw her hand, he held onto it, squeezing gently. "You're right," he admitted, his voice earnest. "I wanted the time you spend with me to be memorable in some way. I know I'm not very entertaining." "I beg your pardon?" "You're ever so entertaining, Your Highness," Rita replied, laughing lightly. "Whenever we're together, I always have a lovely time." "I mean that sincerely." Van Brant looked surprised but pleased by her words. After all, Rita thought with a mischievous smile, he's so much fun to tease. Prince Brant remained quiet as he watched her, a small smile spreading across his face. When he smiles, he looks like a young boy, Rita thought, finding the moment endearing. "Shall I tease him a bit?" A mischievous smirk played on her lips. She placed her hand lightly on his shoulder and leaned closer. His body stiffened in response, and her cheeks flushed as she drew nearer. But just as she got close, Prince Brant gently grabbed her arm, halting her move. Rita froze, her teasing smile faltering. The tension between them was palpable. To her surprise, Prince Brant remained composed despite the faint blush on his face. He leaned in instead, closing the gap, and kissed her. For a moment, they were both lost in the warmth of the kiss. When they broke apart, Rita's breath hitched. "Your Highness," she murmured softly, her voice trembling. "Van," he said, his tone quiet but firm. "Please, call me Van." Without waiting for a response, he kissed her again, his actions speaking louder than words. Later, in her room, Rita sat before her mirror, examining her reflection. Her fingers brushed her lips absent-mindedly. I never imagined Van would be such a good kisser, she thought, still caught up in the memory of the afternoon. She replayed the scene in her mind, how they had both been swept up in the moment, their emotions unguarded. When the kiss finally ended, Van had stepped back, his face as red as hers. Well. Excuse me, he had stammered. I must be going. I shall call again soon. And just like that, he had climbed into his carriage and left. Rita frowned as she recalled the scene. What? Weren't we supposed to have tea time at the Royal Garden today? She thought, confused. I thought I'd be seeing the Royal Garden, and I never even got to ask what the shocking news was. Sighing, she set her mirror down on the table and leaned back in her chair. I hope it was a proposal to join forces against Proud Carter, she mused aloud, closing her eyes briefly. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Miss, it's me, Yersha. May I enter? Come in, Rita said, sitting up. Yersha stepped inside, his expression calm. Prince Van Brandt has requested an audience. Really? When? Rita asked, her eyes widening. Right now, Yersha replied. Rita froze, tension and surprise flashing across her face. What could he possibly want this time? As Rita descended the stairs, her mind was racing with thoughts. If I want to catch Proud Carter, I'll need Van's cooperation. He may be courting me, but his practically morality personified. I can't come on too strong. Better to leave him wanting more, she mused. Stepping into the sitting room, she caught sight of Prince Brandt, who immediately looked flustered at her entrance. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment. He has such a strong, manly face. But those lips of his are so pink, she thought, quickly shaking her head to clear her wandering thoughts. There I go again. I apologize for making you wait, Your Highness, she said softly, offering him a polite smile. Lady Verta, I must apologize for my behavior yesterday. He hesitated, looking tense yet undeniably flushed. Please, Your Highness, have a seat first, Rita said, gesturing to the chair opposite her. He nodded, his features softening. Once seated, he looked at her with a touch of shyness. If it's all right with you, I'd like you to call me Van, he said earnestly. I see, Rita replied, tilting her head thoughtfully. In that case, you may call me Ver. The two sat facing each other, and Rita's composed demeanor caught Prince Brandt's attention. As he observed her, memories of the past crept into his mind. In my past life, I always addressed her as Lady Verta. Later, as the price for my complacency, I called her Mrs. Alberhart. He clenched his fists subtly. I won't let that happen again. Breaking the silence, Rita spoke up, her tone carrying a hint of excitement. What excellent timing. There was something I hoped to show you. She placed a photo of a plant on the table. Brandt leaned forward, examining the image as she explained. I found this plant in the chambers of my former fiancé, Jean Lawrence. It's called Par Bibi somniferum. It may look harmless, but it's actually a drug and a very dangerous poison, he interjected, his tone serious. Rita flinched slightly, her confidence wavering. Oh my! Do you know this plant? Brandt's expression darkened. It's the poison Marquis Carter used to assassinate the late king, he said gravely. Rita's eyes widened. Poison the king? She thought, her mind spinning. You are truly formidable, Carter. To take you down and become the most villainous one in Osland will be quite the challenge. Ver. Prince Brandt's voice pulled her from her thoughts. She looked up to see him kneeling before her, his hands gently enveloping hers. His forehead briefly touched her hand, a gesture of sincerity. Ver, he said softly, his voice filled with emotion. You are the bravest and wisest person I know. You are more than capable of accomplishing whatever you set out to do. His eyes remained closed, his words carrying a weight that touched her deeply. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the sound of their steady breaths, as Rita considered the resolve in his voice. What is he talking about now? Rita thought, her expression betraying her perplexity. Please leave Marquis Carter to me, Prince Brandt said firmly, his voice filled with resolve. I will be finished with him in 2 weeks. Rita's lips twitched as she suppressed a smile. Strange. I feel like a lion tamer with the beast at my fingertips. But to tell me to miss out on the fun of a good fight. You speak as if you know me quite well, she said, her tone sharp but playful. Then you must also know that I am not someone who meekly backs down. 2 weeks, he repeated, his gaze steady. That's all I ask. If I haven't succeeded by then, you may do as you please. And if I cannot wait, she asked, her voice low and serious. Brant hesitated before responding, his tension evident. I loathe the idea of you putting yourself in danger. Please, be patient. Rita reached forward and placed her finger against his lips, silencing him. Such pretty lips saying such distasteful things, she murmured, her voice calm but teasing. I'm sure we could find a better use for them. Her unexpected words made Brant's face flush a deep crimson. Rita pressed her finger gently against his lips before withdrawing it, her touch light and deliberate. She leaned closer, her gaze never leaving his, and kissed him softly. Caught off guard, Prince Brant hesitated for only a moment before reciprocating, his kiss deep and fervent. Brant froze, suddenly pulling away. His breathing was ragged as he froze. I can't believe I allowed myself to act so recklessly, here, in her parlor, of all places. She'd be entirely within her rights to feel insulted, even to strike me. Rita, however, wore a small, knowing smirk. You're stopping now? What a shame, she teased, her flushed face betraying her own excitement. Are you the kind of man who saves the best for last? Hesitating only gives others the chance to steal it away. Her words struck him hard. For a moment, Prince Brant remained silent, his jaw clenched. I don't want her to be taken away by another man. Not again. Suddenly, he pulled off his jacket and leaned closer, his determined gaze meeting hers. Come closer, Van, she said softly, her tone inviting. His hesitation melted away as he unbuttoned his shirt, his movements careful but purposeful. Ver, I'm deeply in love with you. Please rest. In my arms, you'll always be safe, he murmured softly. What in the world made him fall so hard for me? Rita wondered, her thoughts fading as she drifted into sleep. A few days later, their connection continued. They lay in bed together, Rita resting in his arms. Prince Brant gazed at her, a soft smile on his face. How does October sound for a wedding ceremony? He asked, his voice tinged with warmth. Pardon? Rita asked, her expression confused and tense. If this is about Marquis Carter, there's no need to worry. It will all be settled by next week. We'll have plenty of time to prepare for the wedding in October, he reassured her, taking her hand and placing a gentle kiss on it. I love you, Ver. Would you do me the honor of becoming my bride? He asked, his words soft yet filled with sincerity. Rita's eyes widened in shock, her heart pounding as she processed his proposal. Rita's expression froze in shock. We're sleeping together, but we're not in any sort of relationship, she thought, her tension evident. Forgive me, but I think it's a little early to be discussing marriage, she said carefully. If that's how you feel, then I suppose it is, Van replied softly, his voice tinged with disappointment. Rita shifted her posture, sitting up with a sharp gaze. If I may ask, how exactly do you plan to catch Proud Carter? Are you going to charge him with drug smuggling? Van's expression hardened, his tone steady. No, I intend to charge him with the illegal production and export of gunpowder. I've already secured the evidence. Her brows furrowed. Gunpowder export? To Tatum. Tatum is just the first stop. The final destination is the rebel forces of Richard, he said, his words heavy. A chill ran down Rita's spine. Proud Carter, what an evil man you are, she thought. The silence between them stretched, tension thick in the air. Ver, I have something to tell you, Van began softly, his gaze unwavering. Is this the big news he mentioned before? She wondered, her unease growing. Does this have to do with my parents? Do you know why your parents are currently abroad in Tatum? He asked gently. A jolt of fear flickered across her face. By any chance, has something happened to them? Are they helping Proud Carter smuggle gunpowder? Van nodded, his voice low. Yes. Rita's grip on the bedsheet tightened as fear and disbelief flooded her. Gunpowder smuggling. A crime this severe could strip us of everything, our noble status, our lands. Her thoughts raced. But even knowing this, Van still proposed to me. Why? Her hands trembled. What will happen to my family? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Your family will receive no official punishment, he assured her, resting his hands gently on her shoulders. She shook her head. I don't understand, Van. Please, tell me the truth, she demanded, her voice rising. As the heir to the Alberhart name, I believe I have the right to know. He looked at her solemnly. You are no longer the sole heir, Ver. Your mother has given birth to a healthy son in Tatum. Her breath caught, her body stiffening. What? she whispered, her voice trembling. I will be summoning your parents back to Osland soon, he continued. When they return, I will command the Count to pass on his title to you. Relief washed over her like a wave. I thought I was about to lose it all. My heart nearly gave out. She exhaled deeply, trying to steady herself. Straightening her back, she met his gaze with renewed determination. Don't worry, Van. As the heir to House Alberhart, I swear to uphold our loyalty to the royal family of Osland. Van's face softened, a faint flush coloring his cheeks. He reached up to touch her face gently, his hand warm against her skin. Please, just call me Van, he said quietly. You can use my name whenever you like. Their gazes locked, a subtle warmth passing between them. 2 weeks later, Rita sat with Julie and Blaine in the shaded garden, sipping tea. Who would have guessed that Marquis Carter would be sentenced to death? Julie said, her voice tense. They say the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But this downfall is something else, Blaine added with a smile. Rita nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. Smuggling gunpowder was disgraceful enough, but kidnapping the Princess of Richord and keeping her as his prisoner? Despicable. Julie rested her chin in her hands, letting out a sigh. Oh dear, she murmured. Blaine grinned. Julie, you look thunderstruck. Julie blinked, flushing a little. It's impossible to end up with your first love, but this is just too cruel a fate. She stuttered, her face turning red. I don't know what you mean, brother. Marquis Carter had been Julie's first love? Blaine smiled knowingly. As you know, my younger sister has always been a bit unique. She's always had the soul of someone much older, he said. Julie's face flushed deeper. Brother, that was ages ago, she exclaimed, banging her hand on the table. Rita couldn't help but smile softly at the exchange. By the way, Lady Verta, Blaine said, shifting the conversation, your parents will be returning soon, won't they? After such a long separation, I'm sure you'll be eager to spend time with them. Rita smiled. Yes, I'm quite excited. I imagine they'll bring back all sorts of exotic goods from Tatum. She was quiet, observing Blaine. What a sly man. How much does he know? Does he know about my parents' involvement with Proud Carter? Or about my new sibling? Blaine's faint smile lingered as he glanced at her. Oh dear, he said, his voice teasing, I'll get the wrong impression if you stare at me too much, my lady. I heard you might be joining the royal family. Or am I mistaken? Rita raised an eyebrow, slightly taken aback. What's this, Ver? Julie interjected, her expression unsure. Are you being adopted into the royal family? You haven't offered yourself as a candidate for queen, have you? The king is 4 years younger than us. Rita shook her head. That's not it, Julie, she said calmly, trying to keep her thoughts from showing. I need to rid myself of these siblings soon. One is far too shrewd, and the other a complete dunce. Blaine stood up, changing the subject. Our hydrangea garden is quite famous. Would you like to see it? Rita smiled. Gladly, she replied, taking his hand as they walked together through the garden in silence. Soon, Count Alberhart will be secretly arrested, Rita thought, her expression turning more cheerful. It's only a matter of time before I become countess. Then all the wealth and honor of the Alberhart family will be mine. Blaine watched her intently, his tone light but with a hint of mockery. Don't tell me you're thinking of another man while on my arm. You wound me, Lady Verta. Rita smiled playfully, as if I would tell someone as clever as you. Blaine's demeanor shifted as he stopped walking and turned to face her. His steps toward her made her take a few steps back, then pause against a tree. He placed his hand on the tree next to her, closing the distance between them. What in the world are you doing? She asked, her uncertainty evident. His expression grew serious. You're not actually going to marry the prince, are you? He said quietly, his words sharp. You must know he loves you because he doesn't know the real you. He leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. You are an exceptionally clever woman, Verta. I'm sure I don't have to tell you how things will end with him. So. Rita's voice was sharp. It doesn't concern you. I'm humbled that you have so much interest in my love life. Blaine took her hand gently, startling her. I simply wanted to tell you that you deserve a man who can accept you for who you are, he said, his tone more earnest than before. He kissed her hand softly. I apologize if I've offended you, he added, his words calm but his cheeks flushed. Before Rita could respond, a hand grabbed hers, pulling it away from Blaine's grasp. They both looked up, startled, to see Prince Brant standing before them. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice tense. "Minister Blaine." Prince Brant's voice grew more authoritative. "How dare you, a high-ranking official, corner a noblewoman to harass and intimidate her?" Blaine's gaze flicked to the butler who stood silently behind Prince Brant, his face betraying a hint of sadness. "I'm sorry," Blaine said softly, "but may I ask what brings you to our estate, Your Highness?" "Answer my question," Prince Brant demanded, not letting Blaine deflect. "How dare you lay your hands on Lady Verta?" Blaine raised his hands in an attempt to calm the situation. "You misunderstand. It was just a chat between friends," he explained. Prince Brant was silent for a moment, his expression tense. "Is that true, Ver?" he asked, turning to Rita. It doesn't help to make an enemy of someone like Blaine, Rita thought. She glanced at Blaine before responding. "You misunderstand, Your Highness. We were simply talking," she said, her voice steady. Sir Blaine did nothing dishonorable. Prince Brant's face flushed, and he looked at her intently. "Is that so?" he asked, his voice softer, though his tension was palpable. She defended Blaine. "Do soulmates truly exist? Then does this mean we will never be together, no matter what I do?" Prince Brant's mind raced, his thoughts clouded with doubt. Suddenly, Prince Brant wobbled, his balance faltering. Rita moved quickly, reaching out to steady him. "What's wrong, Van?" she asked, her voice filled with concern as she noticed his heavy breathing. She took his hand, her eyes widening in alarm. "My goodness, your hand is as cold as ice. Quick, send for somebody. Hurry." She turned to Blaine, her voice urgent. "Send for help, now." Blaine nodded, looking tense. "Yes, my lady. Please wait here," he said, before rushing off to find assistance. Rita helped Prince Brant sit on the ground, guiding him to lean against a nearby tree. "I don't understand how he has so little stamina for anything outside the bedroom," she thought, her mind racing with concern as she tried to keep him calm. Prince Brant slowly opened his eyes, meeting Rita's gaze. "Ver," he said quietly, his voice weak. "Are you all right?" Rita asked, her voice filled with concern as she gently rubbed his face. To her surprise, Prince Brant pulled her into an embrace. "Ver, I love you so much. But if I don't please you in some way, what must I do to make you love me?" he asked, his words tinged with vulnerability. Rita pulled back slightly, her hands on his shoulders, her grip firm but gentle. "Van, I'm a selfish person. One day, I'll disappoint you, and you'll be ashamed you ever loved a woman like me. Yet, you still have feelings for me." Her voice was steady, but there was uncertainty in her eyes. "I already knew all of that," he replied calmly. "In my past life, you were a woman unparalleled. When your enemies tried to use or break you, you eliminated them first." His voice softened. "Of course, I love you. Can't I?" He flushed slightly, his eyes earnest. "I don't want to change how I live my life because of my love for you. Wouldn't you agree?" Rita asked softly, her voice thoughtful but resolute. "I don't know how much I can change, but I promise you, no matter what you do, I will never give up on you. I will always love you. Is that not enough?" Prince Brant said, his words firm, his resolve unwavering. Rita was silent for a moment, her face flushing. She looked at him, unsure how to answer. "Please tell me the truth," Prince Brant asked softly, his voice almost pleading. "Do you even harbor the slightest bit of feeling towards me?" Rita's thoughts were scattered. "So what if we're a bit different? I'm confident I can continue my deeds without being caught. As long as I don't tell him, how would he know?" A smile tugged at her lips as she considered his question. "They're not just feelings," she whispered, leaning in to kiss him. The kiss caught him off guard, but he didn't pull away. She broke the kiss, her gaze meeting his. "I love you too, Van. You cry baby," she teased with a soft smile. Prince Brant's expression shifted, his joy evident as he held her hand gently against his face. "She loves me," he thought, a surge of happiness flooding him. "You shine as brilliantly as the sun shining through the clouds," he said softly. They kissed again, lost in the moment, their hearts in sync. Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.